Serious. I'll read faster though, you know? I'll read a little bit faster. I get told I read too. If I read less, I get someone else telling me to read more. Alright, so we'll keep it half page inshallah. So you're following with me, Yani. You're following me, Yani. You know the faith. Zouhayr wajah.
He's taping a tap on you.
It's nice. It's good. Give it 10 minutes, we'll do it. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما نافعا يا أرحم الراحمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We'll continue with inshallah brief tafseer on Surah Al-A'la, and we spoke about, is that echoing? Yeah. And we spoke about the meaning of tasbih and the importance of it, and we ended up with Al-A'la, which we haven't spoken about yet. So Al-A'la, some scholars said that it's Allah's name, one of Allah's beautiful names and perfect names. And some said it's an attribute, so it's not a name. But all scholars agreed that Al-Ali is his name, which is the elevated, the most high. So before we conclude this ayah, we want to say that let us all be with Al-Ali, as in be with Al-A'la, be with the Most High. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above everyone and everything in a matter that befits His Majesty. Allah Azza wa Jal is above all who possess knowledge because He is Al-Alim. But put Al-A'la before it. He is the most knowledgeable. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above all great people because Allah is the greatest. Allah Azza wa Jal is above all rich because He's the richest. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above all those who are generous because He is Al-Kareem, the most generous. So be with Al-A'la, be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most high, so that He can elevate your status. Be with the strong, Al-Qawi, so He gives you strength. Be with Al-Hadi, the one who guides, so that He can guide you, and so on. So be with Al-A'la. Let us leave with this ayah and say, I want to be with Al-A'la. I want to be of the highest of character. I want to be the best Muslim. And no doubt that the Quran elevates a person in his dunya and the hereafter, as we mentioned earlier. So be mindful of what ascends to Allah every Monday and Thursday. Be mindful of what actions you're doing. Be mindful of what Al-A'la sees from your actions and your statements. Now, we mentioned that the chapters connect. In Surah Al-Tariq, it says, فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ مِمَّا خُلِقَ. Let him look at what he's been created from. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues this question that He gave us. He continues in this chapter. So, سَبِّحِ اسْمِ رَبِّكَ الْأَعْلَى. You say, who is Al-A'la? الَّذِي خَلَقَ فَسَوَّى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created everything from nothing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created everything with complete perfection. Complete perfection, even though me and you may not see it. So for example, just take the human. That we don't see ourselves, we don't contemplate it. We don't contemplate about it. We have sweat and tears, both from the same body. Both are very different. One is sweet, one is sour. Our eyebrows redirect the sweat to avoid irritating our eyes. Let alone the amount of heartbeats that beats per minute to pump the blood around the body. Everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created is perfect. Mankind creation has so many defaults or so many faults. For example, a car. Before the car is released to the public, how many times does it have to go through that test? Some say 10, some say 20, because it's all trial and error for them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything in perfection within its first moment. Human is, and that's, yes, who said that? Who said subhanallah? Thank you, you reminded me. We started this chapter with Sabbih isma rabbikal a'la. Say subhanallah. This chapter will make you say subhanallah nearly at every ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything in perfection, subhanallah. Everything we're going to mention, you'll say subhanallah. The camel, for example. Allah says, أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. The camel. The camel, as we know, has a hump or two humps. What's the purpose of this hump? It stores food in its hump, which if the camel was to travel for a month or 2 months without food, it transforms this food or fatty food that's in its hump into energy. We have one eyelid and 2 eyelashes. The camel has 3 eyelids. The camel has 3 eyelids with 2 eyelashes to protect itself or its eyes from the windy sandstorms. Subhanallah. Take another example. We have ears to listen, right? How does an ant hear? Does an ant have ears? It doesn't have ears. It hears by vibration. Who created that? Subhanallah, Al-A'la created that. How about the fact that an ant can carry between 10 to 50 times its weight? Imagine carrying a car above your shoulders. An ant, despite how little it is, it carries at minimum 10 times of its weight. Subhanallah. The bees. Read into this. I have a friend of mine who is into bees. He told me this a while ago and I looked it up and it's true. The bees build their hives in a shape. What shape is it? Who said that? What was it? Hexagon. Why a hexagon? Why not a square? Why not a triangle? It's been proven that this is the most efficient way in storing honey and preserving it in that space. Who told the bee to do that? Subhanallah, Subhanal Khaliq. Apparently one bee gives you 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. Subhanallah. So how many bees in 1 teaspoon? We're being provided with all this honey. How many bees? Who told the bees to go to the flower and take the pollen and extract it and make it honey for us? When we're born, it takes about 1 year for us to walk. A baby sheep, camel, goat, elephant, whatever you name it, within an hour they're walking. Subhanallah. We drop a 20-cent coin in a glass of water. What happens to the 20-cent coin? It sinks, yes? But then we have boats and ships which weigh tons, but it doesn't sink. Subhanallah. The heaviness of the aeroplane, it still glides in the sky. Who's controlling all this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the point of this ayah is الذي subhanallah, this is much right here. الذي خلق فسوى. So He's created everything with perfection. And there's so many examples, but due to short time, we'll stop it there with that. But then He says وَالَّذِي قَدَّرَ فَهَدَى. Subhanallah. Allah Azza wa Jalla, as the Prophet said, preordained everything 50,000 years before creation. You being here was preordained. You drinking that water right now was preordained. Me saying this statement is preordained. You making the choice to come to this mosque at this time was preordained. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Alim. He is the all-knowledgeable. But you might say, okay, if it's preordained, does that mean everything is in control of Allah, as in I only do what Allah wants? No, you have a choice. Everyone has a choice, and we cannot misunderstand the fact that you will not have a choice. But the choice you and I make will not go out the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. الَّذِي قَدَّرَ فَهَدَى. He's preordained things and He's guided things to a certain way. He's guided us or given us guidance to goodness. But it's also shar, evil. But you want to have a choice whether we go towards evil or good. A baby's born. very independent. As soon as it's born, who taught it that it needs milk? And it goes to the mother, the breast of the mother for milk. Who taught it that? It has no intellect, it's so small, it's so young, it doesn't know what's going on. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, الَّذِي قَدَّرَ فَهَدَى, has guided it to that. Look at the bees that go into the mountains, deep in the mountains to extract pollen, just for us to have honey, just for us to have a shifa. Who created that? SubhanAllah, it's mentioned in Surah Nahl that we get milk from cattle. But the cattle, this milk is in between digested food and blood, right? And we get it pure milk. Who does that digestion? وَالَّذِي قَدَّرَ فَهَدَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preordained everything. And He's given us a source of guidance to everyone's own sustenance. We have our own sustenance as humans, animals, and so on. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sends one type of water down onto the same earth. But yet, we get different fruits, different vegetables, different plants, but it's the same water and the same earth. Who created that? Subhan al-Khaliq, Subhan al-A'la. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends rain down to earth, but nothing grows. And I've mentioned this for a reason, and I want you to capture that in your mind for a second. Then He says, وَالَّذِي أَخْرَجَ الْمَرْعَى. Mar'a referring to plantation. Vegetables, fruit, grass, trees. So, وَالَّذِي أَخْرَجَ الْمَرْعَى. And I was contemplating, why is this here? This is why you got to deal with the Quran. Why is this ayah here? باقي وقت؟ باقي وقت؟ إذن الآن؟ طيب.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
طيب بسم الله. So وَالَّذِي أَخْرَجَ الْمَرْعَى. Reading the Tafseer, an explanation, and the saying, it's plantation, it's grass, it's vegetables, fruit, for example. I'm wondering, why is it mentioned? الَّذِي خَلَقَ فَسَوَّى وَالَّذِي قَدَّرَ فَهَدَى وَالَّذِي أَخْرَجَ الْمَرْعَى فَجَعَلَهُ غُثَاءً. Becomes dead, and Allah brings it back to life with what? With rain. Are you all with me? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us of life and death in this cycle. And then, look what He says next. Now I'm going to link it before we continue the tafsir of the next ayah. So, He says, سَنُقْرِئُكَ فَلَا تَنْسَى. This is regarding the Quran. Subhanallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us that guidance is through the Quran. He's reminding us that the life cycle is also mentioned many times in the Quran about this, about rain bringing to the earth, plantation, dying and reoccurring. If you want guidance, if you want life, just as the rain descends to the ground and gives life, the Quran, which is revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is from above, from al-a'la, comes to the heart and gives life to the heart. That is the link that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the message that He's sending us in this chapter. He wants us to understand that this chapter, or this Quran, gives life after death. Meaning, it takes people out of darkness into light. From dhulumat al-shirk and kufr into al-tawheed and-nur. So, the message is, life is short. So take advantage of your life before your death. Take advantage of your health before you get ill. Take advantage of your free time before you get busy. Take advantage of your wealth before poverty. Because life is an opportunity, does not reoccur. And the Prophet said, peace be upon him, whoever places the Quran in front of him, it will lead him to Jannah. And whoever places the Quran behind him, it will drag him into hellfire. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, how is our relationship with the Quran? Are we the type that reads it just for the hasanat, which is good, but the purpose of the Quran is the messages that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly sends in these chapters. So no harm in reading in English. I'll never forget the first time I read Surah Al-Waqi'ah in English. I've read it in Arabic, this is a long time ago, and when I read it in English, it was absolutely amazing. So everyone has access to their own language in Tafseer now. There's more than, I think, 20 languages now translated. So everyone has access to it. And everyone should make time into reading the Quran on this, with this methodology, understanding what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. Before I conclude, I've ended the Tafseer, I want to ask two things. I want to inform you about two things. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that every one of my ummah will enter Jannah except those who refuse. So the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, who will refuse? He said, whoever obeys me will enter Jannah, whoever disobeys me will enter the hellfire. You all with me? It's the word of the Prophet ﷺ. It's like a direct message to us. Whoever disobeys the Prophet ﷺ could be entering the hellfire. Whoever obeys Allah the Messenger will enter into Jannah. Every movement we have in the prayer has a dalil. From looking at the prostration position is a dalil. Placing our hand on our sternum or this position has a dalil. Reading the Fatiha has a dalil. Raising the hands in the four positions of the Salah has a dalil. Everything has a reference to the Sunnah of Muhammad ﷺ. So, I cannot come and innovate anything. So, I want to bring awareness to everyone. When we are making dua in qunut, it's not from the Sunnah to wipe your face or your body at the end of the dua. There is no authentic narration that the Prophet ﷺ did or taught the companions to wipe over their faces or their bodies at the end of qunut. As for outside the prayer, a different discussion, but as for in Tarawih, there is no evidence proven. Therefore, we should avoid it, because this can become an innovation. And every innovation is deviance and could lead to entering the hellfire, and Allah knows best. The last thing I want to mention is brothers who hang out at the cafe after Tarawih. Even though you're outside the masjid, but you're in the perimeter of the masjid, it's not permissible in general, and it is worse to smoke in the perimeter of the masjid. Haram. Not permissible. How would it be you've prayed an hour of salawat and then you leave the masjid beyond the outskirts of the masjid and you're smoking? So you're burning away your own seeds. So we ask you, remind you to not smoke in general and to not smoke around the masjid area. Jazakumullah khair. And we'll end it at that, and we'll see you on Friday, inshaAllah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.